Hey friends, Amanda here, Bare Bones Living. Welcome back. And today I'm going to be showing you how I built these garden beds all by myself. And while that might not seem like a big accomplishment for anybody else or for some people, it's a huge accomplishment for me because I have never constructed anything in my entire life that wasn't like an IKEA easy to put together piece of furniture. I literally cut all these boards, screwed them all together, burned them, did the whole thing, and I want to show you guys how I did this. And if I can do this, so can you. So let me show you how this went down. Unbeknownst to me previously, since I'm all new to this, is that a 2x4 is not actually 2 by 4. It's really 1.5 by 3.5. But after I cut one 2 by 4, or I split one 2 by 4 in half, and what I did was I just, took a tape measure, measured, 1.1 3/4, and I marked the board all the way down. And then I cut it on this table saw here. And now I'm just going to, and I marked it all with this speed square, which was very handy dandy. And I'm enjoying using this tool. But for the rest of these, I'm just going to use the previously cut 2x4 that I've already cut in half, and I just traced that out, and now I'm going to cut it in half. We are lucky enough to be using Mike's grandfather's table saw, and I have never used a table saw. Mike has never used a table saw, and this was his grandfather's, and it was just sitting in his parents' garage, and so we were like, hey, we could probably use this. So we were lucky enough to get this, and Mike fired it up the other day, and everything was great. We did replace the blade, so the only thing that we did do is we put a brand new blade on it, and then Mike greased the back here, and this bar here moves side to side in order for you to get the thickness that you want. So then there's also a gauge on here, like a measurement. Right here. And I have that also at 1 3/4. That thing sticking up is a safety. I'm going to leave that up. And then I have the table behind it cleared off, so that the 2x4 can actually run across that table as well as I am cutting it. And this thing is so easy to use. You literally just plug it in and flick a switch, and it turns on. Now this is now my second time using this. I'm very nervous about using this thing. I am appropriately cautious. But I did do one beforehand just to see how it would go. It went very smoothly. I'm very happy with it. But still a nerve-wracking thing for somebody who has never done this before. and you'll see that I'm covered in sawdust, but I am wearing protective eye coverings, and I did use this to push it close to that blade. It's still a little closer to the blade than I would like, but I am making the garden beds that were designed by Jason Contreras at Sow the Land. If you're interested in these garden beds, you can go to his channel. He has 2 videos on it, and he has the plans for sale. This is just me showing you how I did them, not a how-to necessarily, but I did enjoy learning how to split the wood and cut the wood. I also really liked using this speed square to help keep my circular saw straight and away from my fingers. It did really help. These are cedar fence posts that we are going to be using to make the sides. I did use wood glue and pre-drilled all of my screw holes. I used 9 cedar fence posts. The sides were, after I cut off that dog ear, were 71 inches long. And then the sides were 35 inches long, which is half of the full length of the cedar fence board. And I think it wound up being about 3 2x4s per bed. And I ended up making 4 beds. And you can see that I'm just working in our back woodshed, which we also use as just kind of like our garage area because it's covered, but it is very packed full of things. So I'm stepping over boards, around hay bales or straw bales. I'm just making it work with the space that I have. And none of this is perfect. I didn't necessarily space everything out perfectly, and I'm kind of learning as I went, learning what worked for me, and it really all came together fairly well and fairly easily. The longer boards were obviously a little bit harder because I don't have a big, long, flat surface to work on. And again, my space is limited, but I did make it work. Even if that meant that I had to screw things in upside down or from the bottom up just to make it all work. And my screws actually weren't long enough to go the other way around. So that's why I did go from the bottom up so that I would get through the cedar board and into the 2x4.
And I thought that using the table saw was going to be the scariest thing that I did in this garden build until I got to this part of actually scorching the wood in order to preserve it and kind of seal the wood. Now, cedar is already more weather resistant, but instead of like seal coating it or something like that, I wanted to try this burning technique. And I have never used one of these propane flamethrower things, and they are very scary, especially at first. This is not the first bed. This is actually the last bed that I'm burning right now. But I was using it wrong at first, and then I had Mike figure it out for me, and he thought it was pretty intimidating. And then I tried it while he was home, and it was very scary at first. There's a lot of force that comes out of those things.
All right, so now I have 4 raised garden beds built by myself. I feel very accomplished. Throughout this took me 5 days to cut all the wood, screw them all together, burn them, and put them together. And I did this all in between naps, and I did get a day where my dad was able to come over and play with the boys for a couple of hours. But this has been a very long process for me. At times it has been very frustrating. I have learned a ton, like little tricks that like Mike taught me. When I was screwing in a screw, if it started to push the other board out and not actually screw in. A couple of the times when that happened to me, I just screwed a little bit further in and it actually grabbed the wood and brought it back. But on a couple times it didn't do that and it kept pushing the other board away. And he taught me to back it up and then go forward again. And that trick worked every other time. So this has been a big learning experience for me. And now that I have my 4 raised garden beds, I need to figure out placement for them and get them filled. So I hope you guys enjoyed this build. I'm super happy with it. I'm super happy that I did it myself. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Thank you guys for stopping by today and joining in on our journey here at Barebones Living. We'll catch you on the next one.